Welcome to the Wine Boss channel. I'm your host, the Wine Boss, and thank you everybody for showing up to the room. Today, we're gonna dive into the offensive line. I want to put um, a little bit of focus, actually, a lot of focus in on the offensive line. Um, since the last couple of years, the offensive line has not been up to Sam Pittman's uh I guess standard because when he first came, the offensive line blocked way better. So today we're gonna focus in on this particular hot topic. And my biggest question is, can Arkansas revamp front, protect Taylor and Green, and get the running game going in 2025? So before I dive in, make sure you don't forget to subscribe to the Wine Boss channel. And make sure you like this video to help us out with the algorithms so we can continue being the force on this YouTube platform. Okay, 1 second here. We can get set up and we're going to take off here in just a second. All right, we got that up. We're going to make that big and we are about to begin. Arkansas, well, this website is coming, page is coming from the Sports Illustrated. They wrote this back in July the 11th of this year. Another Razorback rebuild on the offensive line facing a key test. Can Arkansas's revamped front protect Taylor Green and get the running game going in 2025? That's the question that I asked. Arkansas enters 2025 with a reworked offensive line, hoping that new personnel and back to basics approach, I'm sorry. Fundamentals matter. And I think that a lot of times people be focused in on trying to do the big things, and coaches assume that players know the fundamentals and they don't cover them enough. When you show up against the best competition, you do things that's fundamentally not sound. So it's always good to take things to a back to basic approach. The hope is that we will help protect quarterback Taylor Green and revive the Razorbacks run game after a turbulent 2024. No, it's the hope. It's the hope. It's the hope because, like just about everything else with the Hogs this year, there are more questions than answers. You have questions on the offensive line. You have questions at wide receiver, even though I feel like there's lesser questions with the receivers, and you have questions in the secondary. So there's major questions all the way around. That's a fact. Last season, Arkansas struggled up front, allowing Green to be sacked 32 times in 13 games. That's insane. 32 sacks in 13 games. You're not going to win too many games in the SEC if you're giving up that many sacks. The offensive line's inconsistency contributed to a drop in rushing production during the conference play and forced Green to rely on legs and quick decision making. Part of that was me trying to extend plays, Green said in spring practice. But the line knows they have to be better, and I know I got to get the ball out quicker. I like that Green recognizes that because that was the main thing that most people complained about with Taylor and Green is the fact that he holds on to the ball trying to extend plays, which we know that he's good at that. But that's risky because in the SEC play, you dealing with other guys that can run too, just like you. So you can't just rely on that. And he did, admit and take accountability. So I like that. And he was right about the offensive line being better. So as long as both sides know and understand that they have to be better, then that is a big start in actually making that happen. The Razorbacks responded by retooling their offensive front through the transfer portal. The Hogs starters, Joshua Braun, Addison Nichols, but retained they lost starters Joshua Braun and Addison Nichols, but retained key contributors Fernando Ramona Jr. and right tackle Keyshawn Blackstock and Imarion Harris. Carmona, who started every game and left tackle last season, is moving to guard. Now that actually might be a good thing. Cremona to me doesn't have the athleticism to deal with the SEC on the outside. The fact that he is moving to the inside and he's experienced, I believe that'll be the best position for him. Now, we talk a little bit about Keyshawn Blackstock, the transfer from Michigan State. They transferred last year. Really wasn't a good year for him at Arkansas, especially when SEC play came around. And the same could be said for Amarion Harris. Both of those guys finished second and third, respectfully, in pressures allowed. So, second and third in the SEC with a total of 12 sacks allowed between both of them. So, even though they're returning players, is not that they were rocked, on the line. It still was struggle between really all three of them. Cremona was better than them, and he was much better in games like the bowl game, like against Oklahoma State, that wasn't an SEC play. So, the offensive line that is returning definitely has to take leaps and bounds to be better. So, Cremona said, "Moving inside is something I wanted to do." Cremona said, "It's been really hard. Everything's happening, bam, bam, bam. But I'm learning something new and just trying to get better each and every day." Well, he came from a mid major, so to go from a mid major to the SEC is not going to be something that's easy. But overall, I think that he showed enough promise that I feel good about him being better in the SEC, knowing that he actually has that experience now. Last year was the first year that he was able to get any SEC experience. And if you don't know anything about the SEC, you might not be set up to succeed if you don't understand what you got ahead of you. Offensive line coach Eric Mateos prioritized physicality, fundamentals, and communication. I like that, Coach Mateos. Physicality. You got to have a physical offensive line. You got to be physical at the point of attack. You got to have guys that want to be dogs. Um, fundamentals. Fundamentals starts with work from fall camp, the spring camp. It starts from all of that and making sure that you continue to work on your fundamentals, your footwork, the basic things that it takes to be on the line. All of that needs to be and has to be worked out before opening day. We can't afford to spend extra time trying to bring guys along that can't, stay still, jumping off. I mean, having false starts. You know what we're used to seeing from the Razorbacks offensive line and communication. What being on the line is knowing how to communicate. You have to communicate with the quarterback. You have to communicate amongst each other. Everybody has to be able to see what's ahead of them, and it does take a high level communication, intelligence, and the willingness to want to do that. The guys really have to come together. So I'm glad that they're pointing that out, um, and I hope that they're teaching that, and I hope that the guys that are playing understand that. The Razorbacks added transfers Corey Robertson II from Georgia Tech, who was a four-star transfer, by the way. Shaq McRoy from Oregon, who again, he was a four-star transfer, but he's only a freshman. He doesn't have a ton of experience, but he has a lot of size and a lot of talent. Marcus Dumerville from Maryland and Caden Killer from UCF. Kevon Broussard from Ole Miss. Robinson is expected to start at left tackle and has not allowed a sack since 2022. Wow, that is 3 years ago. So the kid, Corey Robinson from Georgia Tech, is gonna play left tackle, I believe. And he's coming in not allowing a sack since 2022. Now, let's put this into a good perspective. We know that Georgia Tech don't pass the ball that much. We know that they are probably about 85% running that option. So, I mean, it's still good that he hasn't given up a sack, but I think that'll be tested this year with the speed of the SEC. Even though my pass protection, this is what he said, even though my pass protection through the numbers is good, it's still something that I want to work on as well as the run. So I'm glad that he said that because that means that he probably understands that we really didn't pass the ball that much. So that's good, but that doesn't mean that I'm just not going to give up anything in the SEC. Robinson said during spring camp, every day I just try to make myself more of a complete offensive lineman. So I like the fact that he knows that he still needs work. Arkansas's projected starting five of Robinson, that the kid from Georgia Tech, Corey Robinson, Fernando Carmona is going to be the left guard. The Caden Kittler guy from UCF is going to be the starting center. Amarion Harris is going to be the right guard, and the right tackle is going to be McRoy. Now, you have some experience in there with Robinson and Carmona on the left side. Kittler has experience playing at UCF. I believe Gus Malzahn tried to take him with him to Florida State, but he wanted to come to Arkansas. Amarian Harris got experience, but again, he was at the top in quarterback pressures allowed last year. So does that experience translate to be good or bad? Still a question. But you got to think that when you had a year of mistakes and you really, really are working to be better, you can only go up, you know. So I'm going to give him the benefit of that mystery, even though I really don't know if he's going to actually be the 4-star talent that he is projected to be. McRoy at 362 could be a difference maker if he adapts to Mateo's system. So you got a guy that's 6'7", 362 pounds from Oregon. That's a lot of men right there. I believe he's going to be fine in time, but he didn't play at Oregon. So this is his first year playing with no experience. So though he has a talent, if you don't have experience with talent, then the talent really is no good for that year until you develop your experience. The Razorbacks rushed for 184.8 yards per game last season, ranking 34th nationally, but that figure dropped to 146.8 in SEC play. The team's success on the ground will depend on the offensive line's ability to open holes for a new group of running backs. If the team can run the ball, then they'll be fine, and we know that they will be able to run the ball. But what hurt the running game was the ability to have a deep threat guy that can stretch the defense. You look at Omega Blake and Jalen Brown and Andy John, those guys can run. And when you are able to, expand the defense and make them cover back, then there's less guys up front and you should be able to run the ball. So I expect for those numbers to be night and day this year compared to last year. The run game is always a big part of what we want to do, Mateo said, but it's just not about the backs. It's about the five guys playing as one, for sure. I mean, offensive line has to control the line of scrimmage. Green and the offensive line have worked to build chemistry during the offseason. The O line and I, this is Green, Taylor and Green, the O line and I were spending extra time together on and off the field. That's good. That's how you build that camaraderie. You build that chemistry that everybody's on the same page. And he said, that's how you build trust, Green said at the Manning Passing Academy in June. However, depth still remains a concern and has never proven over the last several years to be the biggest problem with the Hogs. They just haven't been able to avoid injuries. And the performance dropped off down the depth chart. Transfers Dumerville and Broussard add assurance, while young players like Kobe Branham and Jonas Nancy will compete for playing time. You're only one player away from being in here, Mateo said. He tells the backups that that's the reality of the SEC. Nobody cares if you're a freshman or a transfer. You just have to be ready. The offensive line performance will be tested immediately as Arkansas faces a challenging SEC schedule, including early games against Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M. We're going to figure it out real quick, Kamona said. Razorbacks hope their revamped line can provide Green with the protection he needs in the power running game critical to be critical this year. Hawks coach Sam Pittman told the media in spring practice, offensive coordinator Bobby Petrino told him during the practice that he thought this team would be able to run. We're not asking for perfect, Mateo said. We're asking for tough. We're asking for together. How that works out may determine an awful lot about this year's team. So we'll stop the share here. I actually thought that was a good a really good article. It kind of gave a nice context to everything that we all are wondering ourselves. I mean, anytime you lose a bunch of guys, it's always a question to what do we do now? You know, and you can either go up or you can go back. But I believe that in my heart of hearts, um, we made some good picks on the offensive line. I do have a few reservations about Harris and Blackstone, but both of those guys have 3 years of experience. So experience is good. Lack of experience scares me more than experience. So I feel like they'll be better. How much better, I don't know. But the receivers and the ability for Arkansas to be able to have guys to get behind the defense is going to help out everything. So if the offensive line can bring it all together, Arkansas is in line to have a fabulous season. That's how important this is. That's how it's important for the line to really gel. And you can feel the intensity in Coach Mateo's voice. He's really, really trying to get these guys ready. And he stressed physicality, fundamentals, and together. Those three things will get you to where you need to be, but they all three have to be active and working. So I hope that you enjoyed this breakdown of the offensive line. And as I said before, we're giving breakdowns on every unit. We want everybody to have a feel and understand of what we have coming up and what to expect from the Razorback. So don't forget to like the channel and don't forget to subscribe again to the Wine Boss channel for in-depth analysis and breakdown on Razorback football. So until the next time, my name is the Wine Boss and I'm out. Y'all be safe, all right? Peace.